So we're going to start our virtual artist talk. Thank you for joining us. We have several artists here today. We've got Laura Ahola, Steve Hadeen. I see Bob Olson's here, but I don't think Bob will be speaking with us, but I will talk about his work. Hopefully we'll have Kate Langlais join us. She has the work in the student gallery from her students. And then we have the members corner. We've got several artists in there. So we will show their work. This is all the artwork is at the Paradise Center for the Arts. The Paradise is currently open Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, noon to 5, Saturday, 10 a.m. to 2. If those times don't work for you, please let us know and we can schedule a private showing for you. The artwork will be up through September 17th. And we are going to start with Laura. Laura, tell us about your work.
All right, well, first I'd like to say thank you to Julie. She's amazing to work with, and I'm thankful to Paradise Art Center for this opportunity. And to first say that I was totally impressed with the facilities there and all the classrooms, the theater, the support for artists in such a small town. I was pretty shocked and not shocked, but just pleasantly surprised. So I am an artist and I live in Idaho, Pocatello, Idaho. I am an associate professor of drawing and painting at Idaho State University, but I am from Minnesota and I graduated from Apple Valley High School. I lived there in Apple Valley when I was in kindergarten and moved back as a teenager. And then I went to the Minneapolis College of Art and Design where I got my bachelor's degree and went on to get my MFA in San Jose, California. But my family is from Ely, Minnesota. And I've spent a lot of my life up there in the Boundary Waters area of Ely. And the work in this exhibition was all created during my fall 2021 sabbatical from teaching. I needed a break because of COVID, and I was a stay-at-home mom for years, and I wanted to have the opportunity of immersing myself in my work and not take care of students or take care of anyone else. I had never had that chance. I've always had a pretty disciplined practice, but never just immersive. So my husband remodeled a 1968 Shasta travel trailer, and we took off and we lived in the woods in northern Minnesota in Ely for all of summer and most of fall. And I spent a month at the Grand Marais Art Colony finishing this work. And then I was at Fort Collins, Colorado, where I had a residency at the Denver Botanical Gardens. And I worked with an algae specialist, a phycologist at Colorado State University. All these works are inspired by a lot of research into cyanobacteria and algae. I sort of became obsessed with, I've always been a gardener and I'm obsessed with plants, and I realized I didn't know anything about algae, and I wanted to know more because I understand that it's a life-giving force. It's considered the tree of life, but it's also, because it's the first mother class, it was the first photosynthesizing organism, but it can also be quite harmful. So I wanted to study algae with specialists and then try to create paintings based around those. You can go to the next slide maybe, and I can talk about the process. So later on in the slideshow there, or PowerPoint, I guess we don't use slides anymore. There's a drawing that this is based off of. So I was challenged to come up with how to create work on sabbatical when I didn't have a studio. I got a residency through the Rural Aesthetic Initiative from actually two friends of mine who had a traveling museum. They're based in London, Minnesota. And so basically what that was an ice house on wheels that they made into a museum, which they couldn't use because of COVID. And so they wanted artists to use it as their residency, and I applied and they allowed me to use it. And so I picked it up and I brought it into northern Minnesota. So it was a 6 foot by 8 foot ice house that served as my oil painting studio for the summer, which was quite fun. So these are panels that are 5 feet by 3 feet canvas where I printed the image on, and every wall space in that ice house was full of my paintings. And I was actually painting with both hands as I was doing this work. This algae is called Acetabularia, also known as mermaid's wineglass. And I was looking for an algae that represented its importance in science into our lives. And it's a very small little algae, but you can hold it in your hand. And scientists discovered what the nuclei does in a cell by studying this algae. So they started cutting the algae apart, and at the bottom stem of this little tiny teacup algae plant is where the nucleus sits. One Acetabularia algae plant is one full cell system. When they cut it in half horizontally, the plant would regrow, but when they cut it in half vertically, it didn't regrow. And so that's how we discovered what a nucleus controls within the cell system. And I found that really fascinating. At the same time, I had come out of a residency during the sabbatical called Germinate, which is offered through Ayatana in Colorado. And it was 2 weeks of being a plant artist nerd. And one of the things we talked about was invasive species and colonialism and what those effects have on our plant life. And we talked about how in the Victorian era, they changed a lot of names of plants and algae into these really sweet, wispy names. And so I think mermaid's wineglass was really important. Algae is quite interesting. And if you look at the names of plants, it tells a lot, but a lot of those plants have their native names. So this is based on the fact what I discovered about this algae. At the same time, I had done a whole series of paintings based on carpeting, and I was interested in mimicking the forms of patterned rugs because I'm Finnish, my heritage is Finnish, and the Finns had their own tradition of making rugs that are based off of sort of the Persian rug. And I was interested in covering the floor. So sometimes when I show this work, I actually put them on the floor so people can engage with them in a different way. So you can go on to the next one. So this one is called Oxygen. This whole series in algae was also inspired by the fact that we were going through a time where everyone was thinking about what happened with George Floyd and I Can't Breathe while we were wearing masks. And I took a training on resilience and peace training and realized that breath and breathing is restorative and it can restore a sense of peace. And I was also at the same time fascinated by the fact that a lot of my work has to do with science. And one thing I do not understand is how some of our organs in our bodies are symmetrical and some of them are not. So my daughter, who's a scientist, tried to explain it to me like 800 times, and I'm still trying to figure that out. But what I do know is when I went down this rabbit hole of trying to understand the science of photosynthesis, the process of oxygen and plants making oxygen all goes back to the pattern of the cyanobacteria. Those are the black dots behind it. That cyanobacteria is responsible for our first oxygen in the atmosphere. So I was trying to mimic this like pulse of breathing in this piece. You can go into the next one. This one is called Neptune's Necklace, and it's an algae that I've never put my hands on, but it's all these little bulbous shapes that float on the ocean floor, and I would love to go see it. And so this is just sort of a piece of me being captivated by the differences and complexity of what the algae world really is, because all seaweeds are a form of algae, and I just find that so fascinating. So this is just me playing with patterns and the shapes of what those algae are, if that makes any sense. And so this is the drawing that the other print is based off of. So what I did is I spent a lot of time rendering this symmetrical piece. And this is a new medium that I absolutely fell in love with, and it's liquid graphite. If you're a drawer and painter and you've never played with it, I'm telling you, it's gold. And it creates these really rich, dense pieces. But this is before I made the attempt to print anything. I did very complex drawings to make sure that I would get it right. So there's a lot of drawings that didn't make it into the show or into the paintings because I just was not happy with them. I want to ask how we're doing on time. I have some more time left. Yeah. So the entire show is these sort of mermaid patterns that are based off of algae research and a little bit of my experience with the Denver Botanical Gardens, looking at the color patterns and the fall and when things were just starting to die off, and being immersed in the woods of northern Minnesota, right? Well, right now I live in high desert. It has its own beauty, but there's these things called mountains, right? That I just don't understand. And we only have like sage and Jupiter. We don't really have a lot of trees. So the whole greenery is just something that I miss deeply. And every time I'm able to return to your great state of Minnesota, I just fall in love with the plant world again. When I was in Faribault, I took a little hike and I was surrounded by like oak trees and sumac. And I just miss that landscape. So a lot of my work is based on scientific research. When I went to the Fort Collins and I was able to like get my eyes and hands behind a microscope to actually see the algae in action, which was quite fascinating. This work has led me now to do more research on plants. And I spent this summer photographing all of the forest fires. I went to the lands where we had fires in the boundary waters. And I took hundreds of photographs, and I'm right now trying to decide what to do with that work. But it was really interesting to see there's already some algae growth. There is already lichen, but there's these dark charcoal trees in this barren landscape, and to investigate that new life that is just starting to emerge from the forest is sort of where I am now. So I think I'll move on. I'll let you move on now, Julie, if that's okay. And then we can answer questions at the end, right?
Yes, and I think this is the last one.
Oh yeah, then this is called Rockweed. This is the one painting that I struggled with absolutely the most. And I remember being in the East Coast as a kid, because I spent a little bit of time in Pennsylvania and seeing these float on the water surfaces. And this one, I'm also trying to mimic the action of breathing, and that I was trying to evoke the sense that these algae are giving a pulse to life. You know, you try things in art, you never know if you're quite successful, but I did try to do that with this piece. And on top of this piece, I layered these large paintings with a couple layers of floor polyurethane, which is kind of a no-no in the oil painting word, but it's never cracked on me. And what that allows me to do is go back in with Micron and Sharpie pens to pull out a lot of details. So this one has, on top of the oil paint, a lot of ink and drawing back on top of it to kind of push and pull the image and try to get that sense of breathing.
Well, thank you, Laura. And if you have the chance, I highly recommend seeing these pieces in person. I think the photos don't do them justice. If you're standing in front of them with a 3x5 feet, you can be more immersed in the pieces and you can see more of the details. And all these photos Laura provided, so thank you. And I believe all the photos we'll see of Steve's were provided. So they are higher quality than some of the other photos we'll see with the student exhibit in the KM gallery where I took the photos. I know some of Bob's were provided too. And we'll do a Q&A at the end. So if anybody thinks of any questions for Laura, let us know. And we are going to move on to Steve Hadeen. And Steve does photography. And Steve, can you tell us about your work?
Again, I should probably get the elephant out of the room. If anybody's wondering, I'm not from another country or anything. I'm hearing impaired. So if you think there's an accent, it's not, well, it is an accent, I guess, it's a hearing impaired accent. And that's part of my tagline that I have, images from a quiet world. So that's what that's all about. And I've done photography since I was a little kid, really, back when we had those, if you remember them, the little square type flash bulbs, and I forget what the camera was, Instamatic or something like that. But seriously, more than just a hobby, but more of a passion, probably when my wife and I were in California about 2014. That's about the time I started picking it up a little more seriously. And part of that was we did a lot of traveling for the job. And so we'd be going through mountains or through deserts or out to the ocean, and living in Northern California, which is where we were, living in that area afforded me the opportunity to get quite a lot of different topographies and things like that. And I started with landscape over probably the last couple of years. I've been getting more and more into cityscape as well, mainly because I live in Mounds View, which is a suburb of St. Paul and Minneapolis, but also because I like the challenge of trying to make the city be a little bit more than just a city, but actually trying to bring to life maybe some particular aspects of the city. I do the overall cityscape look, with the skyline and everything like that. But I also like to zoom in and catch alleys. And in fact, some of the images you see at the show, one of them is the supermoon rising between the fountains. That's actually just within a park in downtown St. Paul. So my photography work is basically now landscape, cityscape. I like to do commissions if people are interested in something, a vision that they have that they would like to see have come to life. And so I offer that as well. Those are probably my main areas right now. I'm branching off, or thinking about branching off into some other things, but I don't like to get too diversified because I forget how the saying goes, but if you dabble in too many things, you can just kind of be mediocre as opposed to being excellent in a few things. So maybe moving on to the first image here. This is from Day Hill. And if you're looking at the photo, off to the left will be Split Rock Lighthouse. And this is overlooking Lake Superior, of course. We actually went here this night to catch the lighthouse. It was 111th birthday, and so they were lighting up the beacon in honor of that night. And this is actually after we captured the lighthouse, then we started focusing on the Milky Way and things like that. And this particular one is, like I said, from Day here. I am not sure, there's like a little white streak going through there. I'm not going to say that the meteor that may have just been one of the starlings, but I don't know. But it was just a beautiful night up there, sitting on the rock, where it's just kind of this big rock jut out point. And your eyes kind of get acclimated to the night. When you see the Milky Way, I don't know if you know this, but what you see in the images is not really what the eye sees. The Milky Way is more kind of a hazy, cloudy type of a look. And so photographers, when they do the Milky Way, they have to go in and kind of bring it back to what their eyes saw. And so to do that, on a shoot in what we call raw images, and that offers the most data in an image so that you can have the most to work with. And but that was just a beautiful, quiet night. I was just enjoying the stars, and so that's pretty much what that. If you're curious about down towards the lower middle right, that light back in the distance is I believe Two Harbors, and the other light in the dark of the forest is just because passing through there. off in the distance, those little spots of lights in the horizon are probably ships or boats because you can't see the land there. So that's that image. You can go to the next one. And this is an image that happened in early spring. The bus is no longer there, which kind of disappointed me because I went back to make some more images of it the following year. But this is springtime. You can just see behind the bus, some of the leaves starting to sprout out. And I just was kind of intrigued with this bus. It was actually converted into a RV of some type because I peeked in the windows, and it was set up with an old stove and that kind of thing. But I kind of got intrigued with this idea of this rusty relic versus the new growth of life. It's just kind of a contradiction of the new and the old. And I wanted to find a composition or viewpoint that was a little more different, I guess. I'm the type of person that doesn't just stand necessarily at eye height and take images. I will find a viewpoint getting up high or going down low. Here I'm actually laying down on the ground, and I've got this, to be honest, I don't know what this flower is called. Maybe my wife might know because she's a gardener, I should say. But I just love the light shining on it. It almost causes the flower to be translucent and bringing out the purples. And I love the juxtaposition of that against the rusty bust. And the bust has lichen and moss and rust and just all that kind of stuff going on. I just thought it made for an interesting contrast. It's actually one of my more favorite images that I've made. So, next image. And this one here was the strawberry moon supermoon last year. Now, if you can envision in your mind, if you've never been in downtown Minneapolis around the Mill Ruins Park, I am not alone. And in fact, I was swarmed by people. It was probably 85, 90 degrees, a high humidity night. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it was either Friday or Saturday night. And so there's just this massive humanity swarming around me. I'm actually standing in the parking lot, and literally feet from me, I have cars coming in and out of the parking lot. I moved over enough because I didn't want to block anybody, but I kind of had this set composition in mind, and so I didn't want to give up too much of it either. So people swarming all around me, and I'll be honest with you, it seemed like I was the only guy watching the supermoon coming up. Everybody else is going about their business, walking with their boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, walking the dog, doing everything but watching this moon rise up. And I actually had two images of these. It turned out that I like this one better, but I also have another one where the moon's rising behind the, I'm pointing at this, but of course you can't see what I'm pointing at. As it's rising behind this kind of glass enclosure that's kind of a little left of center, actually lit that up as well. But this particular shot, I really liked. It kind of gives it a slightly ethereal look because it lights up the sky enough. You can kind of see these wisps of clouds. And the reason they look wispy is it is a little bit of a longer exposure, probably, I'm guessing 10, 15 seconds. You can actually see some stars in the images, which in the city itself, you just don't see the stars. So that was kind of fun. But the thing that really stuck out for me in this iconic location is just the fact that all these people all around me, it seemed like, again, I'm not saying they weren't, but it seemed like I was the only one paying attention to this. And I really enjoyed making this image. This was actually during the beginnings of, let's see, if it was last year, it would have been during the pandemic. So I'm a little bit of a person who's, I got a little bit of a game thing going on sometimes, and so I was wearing a mask while everybody else wasn't. You know, it is what it is. But this is a fun night and a good image, I think, in my opinion. This is on Lake Superior again. I captioned this one. I didn't caption the other one. I didn't tell you what they're called. This one here is called Frost Yourself, and it's a line from the movie How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. I don't know if you remember that movie with not Goldie Hawn, it's called Kate Hudson. and Matthew McConaughey, however you say his name. So that line comes from there, but I just love the way that the waves of Lake Superior splash up onto anything that's near it. And this tree is actually probably a good 10, 12 feet high up from the lake. So you can imagine that as the waves are hitting the rock, they splash really high. And in the background is actually what they call sea smoke up north. It's not clouds or fog or anything like that. It's actually sea smoke, which is something that kind of just comes and goes. It's certain atmospheric conditions that the lake itself produces. This was actually one of my earlier images, probably from 3-4 years ago, something like that. So next image. This one here, I'm standing at the very top of a hill called Gold Medal Hill, and I'm looking back towards northeast Minneapolis. If you can believe this, I don't remember if it was 299 or 399. I just remember the last two numbers were 99, but it was at least 299 or 399 images I made. Out of all those images, 3 of them had lightning, and this was one of them. And you can't really plan for a lightning shot. I mean, you set up your camera, you get the settings you want, and then you just kind of anticipate. Fortunately, thunder is a little bit more in my hearing range because it's bassy and louder. And you just got to kind of trigger the button when it happens. And more often than not, it was a miss, like I said, 3 out of 2 or 399. This particular one, when this lightning struck, the whole scene was actually like daytime. It was all washed out, really. And so I had to go back in, and I just basically all I did was bring the highlights back down so you could see everything again. And this is not an image compiled with a few different lightning strikes. This is just one image, and it looks like it's hitting the top of the building. I don't think it actually did. I think it went behind the building. But if you're curious, up on the right side of the building, the sign that says Pillsbury Best Flower. That's an iconic sign in northeast Minneapolis, along with that water tower that's lit up. The bridge right in front there is the Stone Arch Bridge. And that was quite a night because a little bit after that lightning struck, I got caught in a huge downpour. And I happen to have a shower cap, which I carry with me so I can protect my camera. But of course, even with my rain jacket, I got drenched. But that was a fun night. One of those kind of images where perseverance pays off, I guess. Sometimes you just got to keep at it and keep at it and keep at it. And that night I did, and I came up with this. So next image, if there is.
Thank you, Steve. Again, you have to come and see the artwork in person. A lot of Steve's work is printed on metal, and the metal seems to give it more of a reflective quality, and especially with something like this, it just gives it some more appeal being printed on the metal. But also, Steve has some pieces in the show that were created from our local big woods, the North Strand Falls, and he did those at night. So again, please come and see those in person if you can. And if you can't make it here during open hours, please let us know. Give us like 24 to 48 hours and we can get you in here when we're closed. Thank you, Steve. And again, we can do Q&A at the end, a question and answer. And we're going to go on to Bob. Bob Olson is in our K&M gallery. Bob does watercolors. And to my understanding, he started doing watercolors after he retired. He was a dentist in town for a long time. And most of his pieces are landscapes. There are a few with people with fishing and other activities. This one is, I believe, the Serengeti. We are excited to have Bob's work here. He has several pieces. He has sold several pieces. So we are so excited. And we have, I believe this one is up by Lake Superior. I recognize this landscape. I believe I've been there many times. Cabin in the Woods, and Bob, I believe, has traveled a lot and done a lot of camping and things like that, and fishing with family. Lots of wonderful landscapes. And his wife Julie told me this is his favorite piece in the show, so we added this piece to the slideshow. It looks like Fishing Up North to me. I could be wrong. And within the same space as Bob, we have kind of split that space to the members corner. And so Bob is also a member of the Paradise, but these artists are also a member. We've got a couple basket makers, we've got watercolor, we've got Asian brushwork. Our Asian brushwork artist is Dee Teller. I don't think Dee's here. I thought Dee was going to join us. Maybe something came up. Dee has been on the gallery committee at the Paradise Center of the Arts longer than I have. I've only been on it, I think, 12 years. I'm not sure how long Dee has been on it. This piece is from her last Southeastern Minnesota Arts Council grant. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with Winona, but the rock formation in the back is Sugarloaf. I'm from Houston, Minnesota, which is really close to Winona. So I have a really kind of a connection to that area. Dee has some originals here at the Paradise right now. She has some prints and she has some t-shirts and bags. So she has quite the variety. And all of her stuff is for sale. We have Barbara Pendergrass. She is a watercolor artist from Lakeville. We have her originals. We have some cards and some prints of hers. And Barbara will be part of our holiday sale coming up in November. Pepper Tharp. Pepper is a pastel artist, and I believe she also does fashion. Pepper had a show in the Lois Varanche boardroom before she had a couple pieces in the members corner. Pepper also has work at our Healing Arts at District 1 Hospital. I'm sorry, Alina Health. They just changed the name of the hospital. And she also has a piece at the Minnesota State Fair in the Fine Arts Building right now. We have Marcy Irby's baskets. Her husband submitted these pieces for us. Unfortunately, Marcy is no longer with us, but we do have her beautiful baskets for sale. Very functional, amazing work. And we have a second basket maker, Bonnie Becker. Bonnie has been a longtime member of the Paradise. Amazing, also basket work. So we have two basket makers. I highly recommend coming and seeing their work. This piece, it really speaks to me. Thinking about buying it, maybe, we'll see. Okay, and then we have our Corey Lynn Krieger Memorial Gallery. For those of you who don't know about Corey Lynn Krieger, she was a student who graduated from Faribault High School. She was going to Stout University in, I believe it's in Menominee, Wisconsin. Unfortunately, Corey was in a plane accident, is no longer with us. And so her family opened this gallery in her memory. And this gallery is always for 18 and under. It's a special gallery. I go to a lot of art centers and places, and I don't see galleries dedicated to 18 and under. We've had ages as young as 3 in this gallery. And we just like to promote the visual arts and take those young artists through their first exhibit. So the show currently is Kate Langlais students. Kate is a teacher at the Paradise Center for the Arts. She also does other classes outside of the Paradise. And these pieces were all created recently through her classes. And I do have, I think everybody's name spelled right, I hope. I had one wrong and I believe I have it corrected. So this is Lulu Flowers in Grayness, and you can see there's some collage aspects on canvas with tempera. This is Elliot Schultz, Day on the Beach, tempera paint on canvas. And these are all students 18 and under. This is Vivian Ryan-Hagen. Vivian actually lives in the Republic of Georgia and is here this summer visiting her grandma, who was very active with the Paradise Center for the Arts. And Vivian was in our Acting Fun for Little Ones class this summer. This is her sister's work. This is Giselle Ryan-Hagen, again, from the Republic of Georgia. Giselle was also in our theater camp for Shrek Jr. She was worked for us this summer. Really gonna miss her and her family. And here's her abstract piece. And I should have asked her, the yellow in the corners almost looks like some type of language. I'll have to get a hold of Giselle and ask her about that. Also tempera paint on canvas. And these guys maybe, I think they're very young. I think they're 3, I could be wrong. We've got Molly and Macy Afino, and again, sisters. And I guess that is it for our slides. At this time, is there anybody who would like to ask questions of our artists, or do our artists have questions of our other artists? And if you think of something, you can email me. My email is on the slide. I'm the info at paradisecenterforthearts.org, or you can give me a call. And if I don't have the answers for your questions, I will reach out to the artists and get those answers for you. Again, if you can't make it to our galleries when we're open, please make an appointment with us and we'll get you in to see the work. The work will be up through September 17th. And we're so excited to have such a variety of work, from Laura's work to Steve's to Bob's. I mean, there's such different mediums, such different styles. And we are always so excited to feature new work at the Paradise. And we switch our shows over every 6 to 8 weeks. And this will be recorded and uploaded to our YouTube page, our website, and our Facebook page. So you can watch this at a later time or share it with your people. And I'd like to thank the Minnesota State Arts Board. These activities are made possible by the voters of Minnesota through a grant from the Minnesota State Arts Board, thanks to a legislative appropriation from the Arts and Cultural Fund. I know people get sick of me saying that I am very grateful to live in Minnesota, and Minnesota supports its artists, and the artists that live in Minnesota, it's vice versa. Minnesota artists, I think it was 83% of the Minnesota artists volunteer for the arts. So we're very passionate here. Again, any questions, please let us know. One more call. Anybody out there? Any questions? No? Okay. Well, thank you for being with us, and I will get this uploaded and on our websites and social media and all that tomorrow. So thank you guys. Have a great night. Again, any questions, let us know.
The opportunity.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Bob.
Nice to see you.
You too. And we'll be in touch soon. I know the show's go by so quick. I can't believe that's going to be the beginning of September.
I think my daughter's going to drive down and get the work.
Okay, it'll be nice to meet her.
Yeah, I just hope, I'm just going to try to hopefully align it with her work schedule. So
yeah, well, let me know. We're flexible.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Have a good
Have
night.
a great evening. And we'll talk to you soon.
That's good. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.